This video is brought to you by Gamersubs. Use code MHB at checkout for 10% off your next order. I love trophy hunting for a variety of different games. I mean, if you just look at the channel, you can see I've platinumed all types of games, from RPGs, fighting games, indie games, racing games, platformers, open world, third and first person games. I'm willing to try and platinum a lot of games no matter the difficulty or genre, but I do have a few games on what I like to call the absolutely not even if you paid me list, which I think is an apt name since, well, I literally get paid to platinum games, so even I wouldn't bother with these. Now, I have already platinum games for the channel that if I was just doing this for myself, no channel or anything like that, I wouldn't have bothered with. And that's games like LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, or getting all the trophies in Borderlands, aka playing and completing that awful Mad Moxie DLC. If it wasn't for content, I wouldn't have platinumed or gone for 100% on these games. So what are the games that you couldn't even pay me to platinum? I'll be honest, it isn't a long list because I am probably a little too confident in my abilities, or at least the idea of getting good enough to platinum some real ball busters. For instance, Super Meat Boy, Jump King, The End Is Nigh, The Binding of Isaac, Wolfenstein 2, all these types of games are not on this list because as games I do enjoy them, and despite extremely difficult trophies in a lot of these games, I feel with enough practice and patience I could get these done. So no, just because a game is uber difficult doesn't mean I never want to go for the platinum, and just because a game is potentially easy to platinum doesn't mean it can't be on this list. But back to the question. What are the platinum trophies you couldn't even pay me to attempt? Well, first of all, is probably one of the most suggested games I've gotten on the channel, Fortnite. Now, if Fortnite's platinum trophy revolved around the battle royale portion, you know, the reason the game is so popular, it wouldn't be on this list because I do enjoy myself some Fortnite from time to time with the boys. However, that's not the case, instead being solely related to the wave or defense mode. I think that's what it is at least. All I know is this mode looks downright boring and miserable to play for how long it takes to get the platinum trophy. For full context, Fortnite doesn't have an insanely difficult platinum. In fact, it's only rated at about a 3 out of 10 in terms of difficulty. It just also takes 999 hours to complete. Okay, not really, that's just a guide estimate, but it's at least 500 hours in this mode, which is far too long. I've never played this mode, so I can't verify how it is to play, but just looking at it, I mean, I'm not spending that long in a wave mode. I'm just not. It's too long and grindy, and I'd rather play anything else. Props to the creators and anyone else who have gotten this platinum. I do admit it would be a cool one to have, at least in terms of rarity, but for me personally, there's not a chance I'd ever even attempt this one. This next one is more of a genre than an individual game, but it has to be said. Sej, you can keep these platinums. I don't want anything to do with them, and that is the world of sports games. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind a bit of 2K, Madden, FIFA, NHL, or MLB action from time to time. I'm not a yearly buyer, but I definitely pick these games up every couple of years or so to get my sports game fix, and outside of the janky physics, I do have fun. But I'd never want to go through the tedium of platinuming these games. This more so comes from a casual fan perspective, but I just don't care for a lot of these modes, especially all the Ultimate Team and My Team crap, which at some point I would have to invest most of my time into to get most of these games platinum trophies. That's really it. I'm here to play these games for a bit of casual fun, maybe a game or two on the weekend. I'm not dedicating any serious time to these games because that would just involve a lot of modes I couldn't care less for, and also inevitably force me to have to deal with more and more jank, because even from a casual point of view, these games' physics are straight up broken and do not make sense at times. Back to singular games though, and this next one just goes to show there's some games I love that I still don't want to platinum, because I love this series. It's one of my favorites, but the platinum requirements are just too much for me, and that goes to Devil May Cry 4 and 5. I could see myself potentially going for the platinum trophies in the first 3 Devil May Cry games at some point, even maybe the reboot, but as I said, in my trophies and achievements that make me avoid the game video, the biggest issue I have with these platinums isn't the difficulty, but how many playthroughs are required to get the platinum. I struggle hyping myself up for 2 playthroughs of a game, no matter the game. I mean, I wasn't thrilled about doing 2 playthroughs in BioShock, and that's one of my favorite games of all time. So when I look at Devil May Cry 4 and 5, all I see is those 6 playthroughs, and I just can't justify that personally. It's just too much of the same sort of content, and even with the unique difficulties that force the player to adapt and utilize all the game has to offer, I think for me, playing the game that much would honestly ruin the game and my enjoyment more so than give me a better appreciation for the game. As I said, I love Devil May Cry and the hack and slash genre, but I just don't want to have to play any game more than a few times to get a platinum trophy. And because of that, unfortunately, I just don't see myself ever wanting to platinum DMC 4 and 5. Congrats to you if you have though, because that is mighty impressive. This next one is more so a series, and most of the games don't actually have a platinum trophy, thank goodness, but I still wanted to mention them because they do get suggested quite a bit and you can still 100% them, and that is the Five Nights at Freddy's games. Now I'll be honest, I've barely played any of these games, really just the first one back in the day, and even then I didn't love it. I've always enjoyed the lore and theories behind the series though, I do want to make that clear. But for me, as games, this series is flat out boring. Not much meat on the old bone, and the trophies, especially in some of these games, are just outright sadistic, especially with a controller. I don't know, this series to me is just loud noises the game, and as much as I can appreciate other people's videos on the series and going for the trophies because, as I said, these are brutal games to 100%, you'll never see me as one of them. Flicking between cameras, checking the doors, jump scare, yeah, no thank you. I'm getting too old for that crap. Maybe the games that branch out from that formula I'd take a look at, but definitely not the original games. Before I get to the final game though, I do want to give some dishonorable mentions for games that I would never platinum if this wasn't my job, but probably will at some point because it'd be good content. So shout out to Dead Space 3, Saints Row 2022, any of the new Assassin's Creed games, in particular Odyssey and Valhalla, and Crash Bandicoot 4, for being the games that immediately come to mind for either being just bad games with difficult trophies, boring games with massive grinds, or in the case of Crash 4, a good game with an actually stupid amount of collectibles. But I've saved the very best for last. Genuinely, the most commented game I've ever had suggested for me to platinum, and it's simply because of how notoriously difficult the game is to platinum. 25 people have gotten this platinum. That's it. It is stupidly rare, and that's why it always gets suggested, and I always say no. That game is Crypt of the Necrodancer. If you've read any articles or watched any videos pertaining to the hardest platinums of all time, you'll have heard of this game. Personally, that's all I've heard about it though. From what I can gather, it's a rhythm-based roguelike with some ridiculously challenging trophies like, for example, Undeadly for getting 10 wins in a row in Deathless mode. I don't know what that means, but 10 wins in a row no matter the roguelike is always a tough task. Or Lowest of the Low, the rarest trophy in the game for beating the game with every character without picking up any upgrades or healing, and you most likely die in one hit. Yeah, this game just seems miserable. Not to mention, I have zero rhythm to begin with, so as much as I do enjoy the roguelike light genre, this one just gets a big ol' no thank you from yours truly. If you are one of those 25 achievers though, make yourself known, because seriously that might be one of the most coveted platinum trophies of all time. It is a massive accomplishment that I will never bother to even attempt. There's probably some more games that could make this list, games I outright despise, but again, in my mind, if I don't enjoy the game, there's always parts of my brain that says, could be a fun video though. But content isn't always worth the squeeze, and for me, these would be those games that no matter what, I just don't think I'd enjoy any part of that process. I do have a hard time outright dismissing games as possible videos because you never know, but these are definitely the games that I will never, ever cover. You couldn't pay me enough money. But anyway, enough about me. If you made it this far into the video, I want to know what games you would never platinum or 100% and why. I am genuinely curious because as a content creator, my perspective is skewed between platinums I want to get and what would make for fun content. Make sure if you did enjoy the video to leave it a like because it helps let me know that you enjoyed yourself. Plenty more Platinum videos are in the works, plus much more. Thank you to all my channel members for that extra level of support, and special thanks to those in the Bear Club: G&T Puppy, Jackie White, Nugget, Dark Wolf, Daniel Fitzgerald, Scott Unwin, Steel Vanguard, NPO Crusader, Zafado, Nef, and Lug Knights. It really does mean a lot to me. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, go give my socials a follow if you fancy at MayorHairBear. Join the Discord server to have a chat, go and chuck me a follow on Twitch if you want to see some of these Platinum Journeys live, or MayorHairBear VODs if those pesky time zones don't line up for you, and I'll catch you all in the next video.